Welcome to ServiceNow TechBytes, bringing you an inside look at our products. I'm your host, Steve Miller. Today we're going to talk with product managers Irene Vieth and Doug Page about ServiceNow's collaborative work management application, which helps teams plan and visualize and collaborate. Stay tuned. Well, hi, everyone. Today we're lucky to have in our studio Irene Vieth and Doug Page. Welcome, Irene and Doug.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Well, before we get started talking about collaborative work management, I wonder if the two of you could tell our listeners what you do here at ServiceNow.
Sure. So we're both part of the SPM business unit, Strategic Portfolio Management Business Unit. And we're part of something that ServiceNow calls outbound product management. So most of the time when people think of product management, they think developing the product roadmaps. We don't do that. We take the great products that our inbound product management team is building with engineering, and we work with important stakeholders, which are customers, partners, our internal sales teams. We work with industry analysts to make sure that these products are successful in the market. And Irene is leading the effort for collaborative work management.
Yeah. Hi, Steve. I've been focused on the collaborative work management project for the past year or so.
All right. And how about when you're not at work? What fills your hours and days?
I've been training for a triathlon, so that's taking up most of my time.
Wow, that's really good. Whereabouts do you live? Where would this triathlon be?
I'm in San Francisco, and so the
Okay.
triathlon's going to be in Yosemite.
All right. Wow, nice. How about you, Doug?
I also pretend, Irene's not pretending, I'm pretending to be athletic. I'm in Montreal. I'm training for a half marathon in October, hoping to beat my personal best at 54 years of age. We'll see if that comes to fruition. Still cold up here, so it's tough to get motivated to go out and run, but that's what I try and do with my pastime.
Very impressive, both of you. All right, well, let's talk about collaborative work management then. To get us rolling, I wonder if you two could tell our listeners just what is the collaborative work management application.
So collaborative work management, or CWM for short, is a central hub for knowledge workers to plan, visualize, and collaborate on work with their teams. And it's really intended for kind of everyday work, ad hoc initiatives, and informal projects. Just think about work that's not a full formal project that's managed by a project manager that has resourcing and funding, but more the kind of things that you're jumping into a spreadsheet to use as a tracker, or you're using other tools like Monday.com or Asana to track. Something that's not quite a project, not an epic, not a demand. And that's really the work that today is falling through the cracks. And that's why we've created CWM to be able to capture and centralize all that work.
So is this a tool that would tend to be used earlier in a project before it becomes something formal?
Not necessarily. That's an option, but a lot of work just never needs that full level of project management. And so it could be that maybe in the early stages in the brainstorming, you might be using this and then creating a full project about it. But often we find that customers have work that is more lightweight and they want a lightweight tool for it. So, a couple of the features of CWM are spaces. So, teams can create a space for their work. Those could be cross functional teams or a dedicated team based on a department. And they can choose who they share it with, what level of access those users have. And then within those space, they can organize their work into boards and docs. So boards are like task trackers or just any customizable list of data. And then docs are collaborative documents. Think shared notebooks for things like meeting notes, brainstorming, drafting, other documents.
Well, maybe you can tell me, why did ServiceNow develop CWM?
Steve, I think hopefully everyone, your listeners know that ServiceNow builds great purpose-built solutions, widely recognized by industry analysts as being leaders. And yet we see the users of the ServiceNow platform still going to email, task lists, Excel to try and manage this work that they do as teams. And that's problematic for us because we love to say the world works with ServiceNow. So we want to bring that work onto the platform and make life better for our users and for our customer base. So that's really the main problem that we're trying to solve. As Irene was describing this informal work that happens within collaborative work management, ServiceNow is already very well known in that formal work, what is generally called strategic portfolio management, the work that executives have visibility to, that has that formal funding, That is a space that we're already really well known for. And it's a nice adjacent space and a connected space for us to go into.
One of the advantages of having all of ServiceNow's applications built on this platform is it brings them all together. We have a common set of resources and we can use data from anyone in any other. Does CWM benefit from that?
Does. When customers go into these other solutions, whether it be Excel, email, it's basically that information's in silos. And as you said, Steve, our customers have invested heavily to have not just their technical architecture, but in many cases, their entire business architecture on the ServiceNow platform. And yet they have no visibility into all this ad hoc work that's happening around that work. So whether that work is related to a customer case, a risk, an application, a business capability, a value stream, a problem from service management, all of that can be tied together so that we can see that work that's happening, which is really powerful to give that visibility to people within their organization and people that are on the platform.
Okay, it sounds like it has a wide variety of uses then. What kind of different users and roles would this apply to?
So this is really intended for kind of any knowledge worker on the platform. Anyone that has work that they need to plan, tasks that they need to keep track of, cross-functional teams that they're interfacing with. I think they can all benefit from a product like CWM.
All right, that's a good background. Can you tell me about some of its specific features?
Sure. So I'll talk about a couple features that are really unique to CWM. The first is the ability for end users to create custom columns and custom item types. So teams can create custom columns on the fly to manage information about their work. They can create things like labels, drop downs, special date fields. And then what's really cool and unique to ServiceNow CWM is that they could also create a custom column of a reference type, and that's going to allow them to pull in any table that they have access to on the ServiceNow platform and link their existing data to these custom tasks that they're creating. And this is really the first product within ServiceNow where end users have this level of customization that they can do without needing to contact an administrator or get approvals. And all of this customization is unique to their space, so it's not going to mess with anyone else's work. It's just for their team. And then in addition to custom columns, they can also create custom item types. So I mentioned those boards earlier, and those are often for keeping track of tasks. But you could also create a board for any other type of work. You could create a board of events. You could create a board of links that you're keeping track of or deliverables that you're making. And again, those custom work item types are going to be unique to your space. The next feature I want to talk about is automations. So once again, this is an end user customization that teams can do without administrative support. And they can set up these automations to automate repetitive tasks or to automate sending notifications based on task dates that are coming up or when fields on tasks change. So this is going to empower users to take control of their workflows by enabling them to create and customize these automations without having the need for an administrator's interference. The next feature I want to talk about is our docs component. This is the component that was especially built for CWM, and it's actually being adopted across the platform and other products as well. But this doc component allows multiple users to collaborate on documents without having to switch to another tool or without losing the context that this work is related to. It also lets users tag and @mention their coworkers and teammates, and then also reference any other work on the Now platform. So you could tag an incident that you are working or collaborating on and also tag people within those docs. And then the final unique feature I want to talk about is the ability to connect to strategic portfolio workspace or the planning portfolio workspace. So if customers also have SPM, strategic portfolio management, they can roll up their CWM boards to a planning portfolio. And then within that portfolio, they can prioritize and roadmap their CWM boards along with their projects, epics, and demands. And so this is going to give that high level visibility into the progress of work, while at the same time giving the teams a flexible and lightweight tool that's easy for them to use.
Okay, given all that, what does that bring to a company, to individual teams within a company, and to the organization as a whole?
Yeah, I think you worded there right, because there's value to the organization as a whole. And also, very importantly, there's got to be value to the end user, these teams that are using the product. So if we talk about the organization first, if you look at the research from Forrester, Gartner, one of the things that's top of mind for technology executives is simplification of their application portfolio. For cost reasons, for risk reasons, they're trying to reduce complexity. And it's one of the reasons why customers love putting things onto the ServiceNow platform. So that's really, from an enterprise level, this is attractive from them from a cost and risk perspective. If we think about the individual users, we're trying to help prevent them have a swivel chair. So if I'm part of a service management team and I'm handling incidents and we have a problem that we want to manage, I don't want to have to swivel into a different application, try and copy over data, have things that aren't referenced to each other. If I can do this all on platform, it's going to make my life easier. That's better productivity, better job satisfaction, happier employees. That's good for everybody. And then the other thing that's really amazing with the launch of collaborative work management, and Irene had talked about this, I think it's good for your listeners who are probably pretty familiar to a certain degree with ServiceNow platform. We've done a couple things that are first times for the ServiceNow platform. And those are end user configuration. So before, as an end user or as a team, if you wanted a new field, you'd go to an administrator, the great administrators that we have across our customer base, and they'd be like, okay, get in line. We're going to put this on our backlog. Literally in real time now, a team can decide, hey, we need this field to be able to track these tasks that we're managing. They can literally do this in 5 seconds. So that's really amazing. And then the second piece that we've added, again, to support these teams and empower them, that's brand new on the platform, is these teams, these end users, can create these automations that Irene had described. First time, before anything had to go through Flow Designer, you were going through whether it's a central administrator or a local administrator to get that done. And these teams can now, with point and click, directly through collaborative work management, create their own workflows, which is really empowering for them.
Oh, that sounds like it's just really in step with the overall trend within the company of empowering the not so savvy user to manage data and workflows on their own.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Given that, I wonder if you could give us some examples, just some use cases. How would people use this tool?
Yeah, we've heard so many use cases from the customers that we've talked to, from everything to planning for contract renewals, to creating sales plays, to facilities management. But I think we can also talk about how we've used CWM internally at ServiceNow. So, in the first 2 weeks that we turned on CWM for us at ServiceNow, we had over 500 users get in there and start planning their work, everything from product teams, marketing teams, strategy, pricing, and ops teams. But I can talk about how we've used CWM to manage the launch of CWM. A little meta example. Launching a new product, there's a lot of steps, and it's not a super rigid, repeatable process. This isn't something that we do every day. So it's more unstructured. Things come up. We have new ideas. We're collaborating with a lot of cross functional teams. And so that's what makes this the perfect product for this type of work. So we have boards for things like our action items. I have one for recording this podcast. We have another board where we keep track of all of our deliverables. We have custom columns for if this is an internal or an external deliverable. We have the URL. We have which team is responsible for it, what stage it's in. We also keep all of our meeting notes in there where we can tag each other in action items. We can tag the relevant tasks, the relevant deliverables. And what's really great about it is that now just everyone knows where to go. If they need any document that we're working on, if they need to see what their action items were, they don't have to track down other products. They're not looking through multiple systems. They know that CWM is their one stop shop to get everything that they need. And it's, of course, easily customizable to how we're working, and we're able to quickly respond to changes.
What has been the role of our customers in developing this product?
Yeah, so we've worked with many design partners who have seen early mock-ups of the product and provided their feedback. And that feedback is really directly going into our roadmap. Because it's such an adaptable product and has so many different use cases, it's been great to hear from the customers about how they intend to use it and it kind of take those real life use cases from them.
It's actually been really encouraging and a lot of fun to see the feedback from external clients, the internal users. You can tell people are really into it. I've been in other situations before where like, hey, can you try this out? They're like, yeah, it looks good. Keep on going. Here, we're getting internal and external customers give us a lot of feedback. This is fantastic, but can you add these 6 things? And they're very specific about what they want. And you can tell they're really engaged. They're actually using it day to day. And I think that's been one of the fun parts about this.
Speaking of fun parts, one of the really fun parts about hosting this podcast is to hear the evolution, the story like this for so many products, and the role of the customers in developing it is just one of the common themes. So I'm not a bit surprised to hear that it's a big part of your evolution as well.
Yeah, we had a fun story. The National Hockey League, the NHL, maybe more familiar to some customers, depending on where you live. They're a user of SPM. Depending on when people are listening to this, they're coming to Knowledge this month to speak about SPM. And Irene introduced them to collaborative work management. And they called us the next week and said, we've got an important use case. We want to use collaborative work management for this, something that was pretty strategic for the NHL. So it's really fun, like to see these examples where you're adding value to clients and they can see how they can leverage our technology right away. It's really rewarding.
Yeah, and it's fun to have it happen in things that you and I would see in our everyday lives, like the NHL.
Yeah. Yeah. I did mention I was from Montreal, so that's a bit of a giveaway.
Yeah, I put that together. All right, let me ask you, you've given us a snapshot of what CWM is like today. I wonder if you can tell us what's on the horizon for CWM down the road.
Sure. So the features that we're focusing on are really about centralizing and combining work. So some of the features that we're considering are a single hub where team members can view a combination of both their CWM and SPM tasks. So they'll see their CWM tasks across multiple spaces, they'll see project tasks, demand tasks, etc. And this is going to provide them a great place to start with visibility into all of the work that's assigned to them without having to jump into multiple workspaces or multiple CWM spaces. The next feature that we're looking at is the ability to roll up a CWM board to a project phase. And so this is again about having to provide the visibility at the project level with the flexibility for the end users. And then the next is a connection to agile workflows. So we'll have the ability to support any type of work process, whether that's agile, waterfall, or hybrid, and the ability to manage a unified backlog as well as sprint planning.
All right, well, how can a team figure out if CWM is the right tool for them?
That's a good question. I picture in my head one of those logical charts where you go through and you ask the questions. I think the first question is, do you work in a team? If the answer to that is yes, then you're still going along. It might be for you. I think the next question that we would ask is, who's leading your team? Is it a formal project manager who's gone through PMI, Project Manager Institute training, and are they managing detailed financials? They're probably going to live in our SPM, our strategic portfolio management tool. But the answer to that is no. Then you're pretty much bang in the sweet spot for collaborative work management, which in reality is probably about 80% of the work that happens in the organization. It's only really 20% that is really in that formal funded work. We're tracking all the budgets, but there's a ton of things that we do every day. And Irene had given some examples that are really in this sweet spot for collaborative work management. So yeah, if I would just go through that checklist again, we work in teams, we're self-organized. The person who's leading is not a project manager. Maybe we don't have a leader at all. We're just doing this on our own. That's a lot of work that happens. And even for us from the strategic portfolio management BU, we're using collaborative work management every day.
Okay, so if somebody wanted to use CWM right now, how would they get started?
Sure. So, from a licensing standpoint, if they're an SPM customer, CWM is actually included in their SPM license at no additional cost. So, that's both for the standard and the pro license. But it's also sold as a standalone license. So, if you're not an SPM customer, or if you want to expand your user base and get CWM for other users, you can contact your account team about getting those CWM licenses. If you are an SPM customer, you can just go into the ServiceNow store and download the app today and assign the CWM role to your users, and you're basically good to go. There's a couple of other optional steps, and we've created a 5-minute implementation guide to walk you through that. But it's really easy to set up and get going. Again, because most of your customization is things that your end users can do themselves.
Okay. You mentioned the implementation guide. What other sources might there be to get more information on this?
Our community page, which is going to have a quick start guide that will have everything you need to know about CWM, about using it, about implementing it. And you can also look into the product documentation for more detailed information.
Okay, that's been a great summary. I've learned a lot about CWM, and hopefully our listeners have too. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we wrap up?
We're super excited to have our customers collaborate within our collaborative work management tool and to see what they can do with it.
All right. Thank you both very much for joining us. This has been a really good episode. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Steve.
Thanks.
Please tell us what you think of this podcast. You can leave feedback or ask questions in the ServiceNow community. For more information on any ServiceNow topic, take a look at our product documentation or knowledge base or our ServiceNow support YouTube channel. Thanks for listening.